Welcome to BL Stories, where romance, drama, and unforgettable boys' love come to life. Love knows no limits, and the best stories aren't always straight. Subscribe now and join our growing BL-loving family. Chapter 36. The following 2 weeks passed without any sign of Jamie. I managed to avoid my dad whenever he came home, which meant I hadn't confronted him yet, and things between Dylan and me were better than ever. The Saturday after our second week back at school, Mum invited Jane, Sophie, and Dylan over for dinner. Thankfully, Dylan had already told his mum and Sophie that my mum didn't know about our relationship yet, so they promised not to mention anything. I was a little unsure about whether Sophie could keep the secret, but Dylan reassured me that even though she was only 6, she fully understood what "don't tell anyone I'm Alex's boyfriend and I'll take you to the zoo" meant. According to him, she would cooperate. Dad was, unsurprisingly, absent for the meal, something Mum didn't seem too bothered about for once. At exactly 7 o'clock, I opened the door and was immediately tackled by Sophie, who wrapped her arms around my legs. I greeted Jane with a quick kiss on the cheek and showed her where the kitchen was. She hurried after Sophie, who was excited to see my mum again. Dylan gave me a hug, friendly at first, until he tried something a little too bold. "Mom's in the kitchen, by the way," I whispered. "So, unless you want to explain things to her right now, maybe avoid doing that." "Hey, Luke," Dylan said as my brother came down the stairs. I lightly punched Dylan's arm and followed Luke to the kitchen, only for Dylan to take the opportunity to lightly smack me from behind. "I'm going to get you back for that," I muttered. "I'll be waiting," he whispered back. "Mum, this is Jane and Sophie, and you already know Dylan. Guys, this is my brother Luke." Mum dried her hands quickly and hugged Jane. "It's so nice to finally meet you." "Likewise," Jane replied. "Hello, Mrs. Brooke," Sophie said. "You must be Sophie. Please, call me Karen. Would you like some juice?" Sophie nodded happily and followed Mum to the fridge after greeting Dylan. We all sat down for dinner. Mum made steak pie, and it was amazing. She and Jane talked about Mum things. Sophie kept asking Luke endless questions, which he didn't seem to mind, and I kept glaring at Dylan every time he tried to play footsie under the table. After dinner, Jane helped Mum with the dishes. Luke happily went outside to jump on the trampoline with Sophie despite the cold, and I headed upstairs with Dylan. The moment I closed my bedroom door, Dylan pinned me lightly against it and kissed me. I placed my hands on his back while his fingers tangled in my hair. After a moment, he pulled away, catching his breath. "I've been wanting to do that all night." "Really? I never would have guessed." "Sarcasm is the lowest form of wit," says the guy who basically speaks fluently in sarcasm. He smiled and gave me a soft, slow kiss before collapsing onto my bed. "Make yourself at home, then," I said as I went to fix my hair in the mirror. "I plan to," he replied. Once my hair looked less messy, I jumped onto Dylan, who was pretending to be asleep. "Am I boring you?" "You're just crushing my lungs," he groaned. I rolled off him and lay beside him, taking his hand. "Your mum seems really nice," Dylan said. "Yeah, she does." "Have you talked to your dad yet?" "Nope. But next weekend his work is having a charity dinner. We're all going. I think Mum's secretly hoping things are okay between them. Honestly, I wish she'd just move on. I guess it's difficult when she still loves him, even if it doesn't feel mutual." "Maybe." "Dylan, we're getting ready to go." "Coming," Dylan shouted back. He rolled over and playfully pinned my hands above my head. "Gotta go," he said with a grin. "Talk to you later?" "Anytime." He leaned down and kissed me, not a quick goodbye kiss, but one that made it very clear he wished he could stay longer. "Dylan," his mum called again. He pulled away, smiling. "See you. You're impossible. And you love it," he called as he headed out the door. I couldn't deny it. He was definitely growing on me. "Thanks for dinner, Mum," I said as I walked into the kitchen. "No problem, honey. I really like Dylan's mum. She's lovely." "Yes, she is. Let them know they're welcome anytime." "I will." I sat down. "Mum, why are we even going to Dad's charity dinner?" She paused before answering. Because, despite everything, your father still denies having an affair. I don't believe him, not for a second. But if I let him think I do, I'm hoping he'll lower his guard. I know it's someone from his workplace, and I want to see if she'll be there. So basically, we're going to the dinner to catch him off guard and find out who she is. She shrugged. That's the plan. You're kind of amazing, you know. I'm sorry the man you married turned out to be so disappointing. Thank you, honey. And I'm sorry he ended up disappointing you too. Chapter 37. I was still riding the high from our weekend dinner, so when Savannah approached me on Wednesday after lunch, it didn't ruin my mood the way it usually would. Life had been going too well lately for me to let anything bring me down. At least, that's what I kept telling myself. I was putting books into my locker when she leaned casually against the one beside mine. Hey, Alec. How's it going? Hey, Savannah. Things are good. How about you? Even better now that I'm talking to you. Really? Okay, what do you want? Well, she said, stepping a little closer, I was wondering if maybe you wanted to go out sometime. Just the two of us? Wow. Thanks for the offer, but I'm really not in the mood right now. Alec, come on. For old time's sake? I know we didn't work out before, but we could try again. Savannah, we broke up because you were seeing Bobby behind my back. She sighed. That was a huge mistake, and I'm sorry. But since you've been single for a while, what's wrong with having a little fun? And that's when it hit me, the problem. Everyone thought I was single. When school started, more girls than usual had been talking to me, but I ignored them because I wasn't interested. With Savannah pushing again, I realized she'd keep flirting as long as she assumed I was unattached. But I wasn't. I had a boyfriend. The truth is, Savannah, I'm seeing someone. She laughed. Really, Alec? Everyone knows you haven't been with anyone since Kelly. But fine, I'll play along. Who is she? It's none of your business. That's the best excuse you've got? I sighed and glanced around, and that's when I saw Dylan standing across the hall with Sally. Sally looked like she was mentally setting Savannah on fire, while Dylan looked entertained. He pulled out his phone, and a moment later, I got a text. You can tell her if you want. I don't mind. So I stared at the message. This was the perfect moment. Before now, I would never have said who I was dating, because hardly anyone knew Dylan was into guys. But with his permission, it was my choice. Alec, are you even listening to me? If I didn't already like you, I'd think you were being really rude. So come on, who's your mystery girlfriend? Boyfriend, I said. She blinked. What? Not girlfriend. Boyfriend. Savannah looked stunned, eyebrows raised, glossy lips parted. Honestly, I kind of wanted to celebrate. Not many people could make Savannah Hale speechless. So, you're saying you're into guys now? Well, I wouldn't label myself completely. But yeah, I'm dating a guy. Who? Dylan, I said, pointing at him. She turned to look, and he gave her a small, almost smug wave. You're kidding. Seriously? Nope. But how? I don't understand. It's been great catching up, Savannah, but I've got class. See you around. And then I did the single most terrifying and strangely empowering thing I've ever done. I reached for Dylan's hand. And we walked to class together. During double English, I tried to focus on my work instead of spiraling. Honestly, I was doing better than I expected. I couldn't believe I'd told Savannah the truth. By the end of the day, the whole school would know. I was nervous out of my mind, but at the same time, relieved. Everyone stared when Dylan and I walked away hand in hand, but did I care? Not really. The look on Dylan's face when I grabbed his hand told me I'd done the right thing. After school, people stared even more. I kept walking. No one said anything, probably because Sam met me in the hall and immediately threw an arm over my shoulders. Well, look who officially has a boyfriend. Shut up, I said, unable to stop smiling. Anyone giving you trouble? Not yet. But someone probably will eventually. And they'll regret it, Sam said simply. When we reached the car park, where my friends were hanging out for no logical reason, they all cheered. Cam high-fived me as I approached. Really, guys? I asked. One question, Matt said. Did you get a picture of Savannah's face? No, he didn't, Dylan answered as he took Sam's spot beside me and wrapped an arm over my shoulders. But trust me, it was priceless. I looked up at Dylan, who placed a small kiss on the top of my head just as Sam returned with his car. You okay? Dylan asked quietly. I'm good, I said, still smiling. I said goodbye to everyone and got into Sam's car. Are we picking up Luke? No, he's at Nathan's. Got it. When we pulled up at my house, Sam paused before I got out. You know, I'm really happy for you, man. Forget anyone who talks trash. And if you ever need to talk about anything, you know I'm here. Yeah. Thanks, Sam. No problem. Just, spare me the details of your relationship. I snorted. Noted. We exchanged a fist bump, and I headed inside. I had just told the entire school I had a boyfriend. But I guess I liked Dylan way more than I realized. Chapter 38. On Thursday, a lot of people stared, but surprisingly, nobody said anything. Dylan was just as confused as I was. But of course, Cam figured it out by lunchtime. You're Alec Brooke. We were all seated around one of the round lunch tables. Every one of us paused mid-bite and stared at Cam, who continued eating as if he hadn't just made the most cryptic statement of the week. Sam shrugged at me. What's that supposed to mean? I asked. Cam looked confused that he even needed to explain. Then he realized the entire table was waiting for him, so he swallowed, wiped his hands, and finally elaborated. Dude, you're captain of the football team, one of the most well-liked and respected guys in school. Plus, you have all of us backing you up. If anyone tried to say something rude, they know they'd regret it, either because of you or because of us. Everyone nodded in agreement and went back to eating. You guys seriously believe that? Sam answered first. Alec, let's be real. Sure, you'll probably hear a few jokes here and there, maybe someone will whisper something in the hallway, but nothing serious. In movies they make it seem like the whole football team turns on the guy who comes out. That's not happening here. Yeah, Matt added. You're one of our best players. If we kicked you off the team, coach would lose his mind, and we'd probably end up doing laps for the rest of the year. Touchy subject, Mitch muttered. Dylan elbowed him lightly. What I'm saying, Cam continued, is that people actually like you. And they're not going to bother Dylan either, because he looks like he could take down anyone if he had to. I'm taking that as a compliment, Dylan said, and I couldn't help smiling. However, Cam added, and my stomach dropped. Kelly hasn't been at school these past few days, so she might be one of the few who has something to say. For once, Cam was right. On Friday after school, I headed toward the art department to meet Dylan. We both had double history, but he decided to skip it to work on one of his art pieces. I was just reaching the art classroom when I heard the one voice I was hoping to avoid for the rest of my life. Alec Brooke, you have some explaining to do. Oh no. I sighed and turned as Kelly marched toward me. Judging from her expression, she had definitely heard the news. Hey Kelly. You look lovely today. Don't start with that. Are you seriously dating a guy? I have a boyfriend, yes. That's how. I don't understand. Her expression was a mix of frustration and total confusion. His name is Dylan, I said gently. That's not what I mean. I mean, you can't be into guys. We dated. I might be bisexual or something, I said, trying to keep my voice calm. But she wasn't listening. She looked like she might either start yelling or burst into tears. Then her face twisted into alarm. Did I somehow cause this? What? Absolutely not. You didn't cause anything. I didn't think so, she said, mostly to herself. I couldn't have caused that. I closed my eyes for a second. I had dated this girl. She was actually one of my best relationships. And that said a lot about all the others. Kelly, look. I don't believe you. What? She crossed her arms. I know Savannah has been trying desperately to get your attention. Maybe you just said all this to get her off your back. Was she really serious? Right then, Dylan stepped out of the classroom, spotting us and slowly walking over. Kelly ignored him and continued. I know you, Alec. You are not someone who suddenly decides to date a guy. There's no way. Wait, what? There was nothing I could say to change her mind. Absolutely nothing. So, I did the last thing she, and even I, expected. I walked right past her, straight to Dylan, who looked amused and confused at the same time. Before he could react, I held his face between my hands and kissed him. Okay, maybe it was dramatic. Maybe a little too dramatic. But it definitely made my point. Dylan, catching on and enjoying the moment, kissed me back. I pulled away quickly, remembering we were standing in a school hallway and that my ex-girlfriend was still there. Kelly shoved me lightly as she walked past, which only pushed me closer to Dylan. "I can't believe you'd date me if you were into guys," she shouted as she walked away. I resisted the urge to yell back that I wasn't even sure of anything back then. Before I could speak, Dylan burst out laughing. "What's so funny?" I asked, stepping away and checking that the hallway was clear. "Oh," he said. "You never stop surprising me." "Well, you're welcome," I said awkwardly. Dylan laughed again, then took my hand as we walked out of the school. "So," he said, trying to sound serious, "are public displays of affection going to be a regular thing now?" "Oh great. Here we go. Because," he continued, "I could have made it way more dramatic. I could have swept you into my arms. Stop. Or pushed you gently against the wall. I really dislike you." "Hey, you started it," he said with a grin. I stopped just before the doors. "Are you done?" "Nope," he said, totally unconvincing. We walked toward our friends, and before I could stop him, Dylan raised his voice and announced, "Did you guys know Alec is a huge fan of public displays of affection?" I swear I was going to get him back for that. Chapter 39. "Alec, please do me a favor and be civil to your father. Can you do that for me?" I looked up at my mother, standing at my bedroom door, dressed and ready to go. I finished tying my tie, picked up my navy suit jacket from the back of my chair, and made my way toward the door. She reached out and stopped me. "Alec?" she asked gently, a note of warning in her voice. "If that's what you really want, then okay. Can we just go already?" She brushed my messy hair off my forehead, no way I was slicking it back, and cupped my face in her hands. "Thank you. Your father is waiting in the car. Let's go." At the bottom of the stairs, Luke caught my eye, and I did a double take. Mum had somehow convinced him to wear a black suit and tie with a crisp white shirt, and to actually comb his hair. I was impressed. "Your suit is way more casual than mine," he complained as I helped him up. I was wearing a navy suit and tie over a light blue shirt. Luckily, my suit fit better than Luke's, so I at least looked somewhat comfortable. "Nah, you look casual. How's it feel not wearing a hoodie?" "Cold." "Right, boys," said Mum, putting on her jacket. "Time to go." The ride to the charity event was quiet, thankfully. The event was being held at a fancy hotel outside of town. After a last reminder from Mum to be polite and respectful, we stepped into the hotel, the dreaded Party of Doom. The main venue was exactly what I expected, opulent and full of people who reeked of money. A posh attendant showed us to our table. Of course, my luck had run out. Seated at our table were Kieran, Amanda, and my best friend, Molly. "Jack, good to see you," said Kieran, rising to greet my father with a wide smile, acting as though they hadn't seen each other in years. I forced a smile, though I wasn't happy to be there. I shook Kieran's hand and turned toward Molly, who eagerly pulled out the chair next to her. "Hey, Molly." "Hi, Alec. Long time no see." "I know, right?" Once everyone was seated, a waiter served us glasses of champagne. At least there was something to take the edge off. I sipped my drink and looked around, trying to avoid Molly's gaze. "The place looks amazing," I said, glancing at her without meeting her eyes. She stared back at me, and I wished I could be anywhere else. Molly was unpredictable, and I never quite knew what she would do. "It sure is," she said, reaching for her own glass. I quickly downed my drink when a waiter approached, holding it out for a refill. "So," Molly continued, "got a girlfriend yet?" "No," I mumbled. I wasn't lying, but I knew I should have said more. "Really? Well, I guess that makes me very lucky then." Damn it, Alec. My secret relationship with Dylan meant I had to stay faithful, and Molly showing interest only made things more stressful. I couldn't embarrass my father, not tonight. Thankfully, the staff quickly took our food orders and served the meal. 6 glasses of champagne later, and the meal was finished. Time to mingle. And of course, Molly decided to stay close. She grabbed my hand and started leading me around the room. With the alcohol affecting me slightly, I didn't protest. Lazy Alec. Eventually, she dragged me to a quiet corner of the room. Molly, I should really. Just sit, Alec. She pulled me down on the bench and scooted close. I was thinking maybe we could leave the adults and go somewhere quieter. I tried to sit up straighter, but it only pushed me closer to her. She took that as an opportunity to get a little too comfortable. Molly, I'm flattered, but this isn't a good idea, I said. Why not? You're lovely, but I don't feel that way about you. Oh, come on, Alec, I'm not asking for anything serious. Molly, I need to go. I jumped up quickly, too quickly, and nearly ran straight into my father. He, Kieran, Amanda, and Mum had approached us. Thankfully, the corner was empty, so no one witnessed my stumble. Whoa, Alec. Everything okay? Dad asked. Yeah, fine. I just need some fresh air, I said, trying to push past him. I'll come with you, Molly offered, reaching for my hand. That was it. Between the alcohol, the frustration, and my need to protect Dylan, I snapped. Molly, I said no. Please leave me alone. Alec, Dad scolded, there's no need for that. She's just being polite. No, she's not. I'm tired of all of you, trying to set us up. I'm not interested. How many times do I have to say no? Amanda stepped forward calmly. I don't see the problem. He's single and we're just trying to help. But that's the thing. I yelled, drawing a few glances. Luke was weaving through the crowd, but I didn't care. I was done pretending. I'm not single. Well, why didn't you just tell us? Dad said. You don't need to keep a secret, girlfriend. And that's where you're wrong, I said, stepping toward him. Luke quickly moved in front of me, trying to hold me back. Alec, don't, you're drunk. I don't have a girlfriend. Alec, Luke warned. I have a boyfriend. And I don't care what you think. Everyone froze. Luke pulled me gently backward, but I kept my eyes on Dad. His face flushed with fury and embarrassment, hands clenching. What did you say? He shouted. You heard me. I yelled back before Luke guided me outside. The cold air hit me as I stumbled onto the street. My breathing was heavy, my head spinning, but mostly I was furious. Where are you going? Luke shouted. Moments later, he caught up with me, holding my face gently. Alec, you have to go back inside. Call Dylan and have him pick you up. Can you promise me? Yeah, sure, I said, pulling out my phone. I dialed Dylan's number and held it to my ear, pointing to it. Luke nodded, gave me a quick hug, and ran back inside. I slouched against a wall, sitting on the pavement while I waited. When Dylan answered, I let out a shaky sigh of relief. Hey, Alec. Are you okay? Tears slipped down my cheeks as my body shook. I told them, I sobbed. Alec? Calm down. What did you tell them? Have you been drinking? Just a little, I admitted. I didn't mean to. I just got so angry. What did you say? I have a boyfriend. There was silence on the line, then Dylan's calm, steady voice. I'm coming to get you. Where are you? I gave him the hotel's name and said I was sitting nearby. He reassured me he'd find me and told me to stay put. I huddled against the wall as my tears slowed until I saw headlights approaching. Strong arms lifted me up, and Dylan hugged me tightly, stroking my hair and rocking me gently. I know, he whispered. I know. He kissed my head, guiding me safely toward the car, and I clung to him, finally feeling a sense of relief. Chapter 40. Dylan's POV. I continued driving, glancing over at Alec every few seconds to check if he'd moved since I managed to get him into the passenger seat. One hand gripped the steering wheel, the other still holding his hand, tight enough to cut off circulation if I wasn't careful. He had stopped crying, but his face was tear-streaked, and his eyes were red and glassy from the alcohol he'd consumed. Luke had texted me to confirm he'd been drinking, but I'd already guessed as much. Since getting him in the car, Alec hadn't said a word, just sat silently, staring out the window while holding my hand. "Alec," I said softly, "talk to me, okay?" No response, though his grip tightened slightly. When I pulled into the driveway, Alec stayed in the same position. He did release my hand when I tried to pull away, so I quickly got out of the car, went around to his side, and opened the door. I unbuckled his seatbelt, swung his arm over my shoulders, and wrapped my arms around his waist. "Time to get out of the car, buddy," I said, guiding him out. He nearly collapsed onto the ground, so I half-carried, half-supported him toward the house. I managed to unlock the door while balancing him against me, and we quietly stepped inside. "Dylan," he mumbled. "Hallelujah." He was talking. "Yeah. I think I'm gonna be sick." "Okay, just hang on." I quickly led him down the hall to the bathroom. He collapsed to his knees in front of the toilet and began heaving. I sat next to him, rubbing his back and gently brushing his dark hair off his forehead while he got through it. "Hey, it's okay," I murmured. The bathroom door opened, and my mom peeked in, dressed in her robe, concern written on her face. "Is he okay?" she mouthed, pointing to Alec. I nodded and mouthed back, "We'll be fine." She smiled faintly and gestured that she was just down the hall if we needed anything. The door closed quietly, and Alec stopped heaving. "Wait here," I said quietly. I wet a small towel so he could wipe his face. He flushed the toilet, then leaned back against the wall, pale and clammy in the bathroom light. His hair stuck to his forehead, and he kept his eyes squeezed shut as he wiped his face. "Sorry," he whispered. I handed him a toothbrush from the cupboard and helped him to his feet. He gripped the sink for balance and blinked a few times, struggling to focus through his red, glassy eyes. I kept a hand on his back while he brushed his teeth. Once he finished, I put his arm over my shoulder again and guided him to my room. I leaned him against the back of the bedroom door and turned on the bedside lamp. He looked at me, half slouched against the door. "I'm sorry," he said again. "You don't need to apologize," I said softly, taking his face in my hands. "It's going to be okay. Right now, you just need to rest and deal with it in the morning, okay?" He smiled, and I helped him remove his suit jacket, placing it neatly on the back of my chair. I started undoing his tie. "Nice suit, by the way," I said. "Thanks," he replied, a hint of humor returning to his voice. I worked on his tie and shirt buttons while he watched. He looked tired but safe, and that's all that mattered. Once the shirt was off, he folded it neatly and set it aside. We got his trousers off, and he sighed in relief. "Dylan," he said softly, looking at me. He walked over slowly, steadying himself, and took my hand. "Whatever happens, it's worth it," he murmured. I smiled and pulled him close. He rested his head against my chest, and I rubbed his back, feeling his warmth. "Come on, my lightweight football star, time for bed," I teased gently. He laughed, a soft sound that vibrated through me. He climbed into my bed, and I quickly changed into comfortable clothes before getting in beside him. He rested his head on my chest, and I kissed the top of his head. No matter what happened with his family, I couldn't help but feel protective and amazed by him. I woke to soft groaning and opened one eye to see the cutest, slightly hungover person I'd ever met. "How's the head?" I asked. "I didn't even drink that much," he mumbled. "Sure," I teased. "Oh, shut up. I swear it was fancy champagne." "My brain isn't used to this luxury," he replied, smirking. "You mean cheap beer isn't the finest beverage in the world?" I joked. He sighed and lay back on top of me, eyes raised in mock exasperation. "It was all that groaning," I said innocently, and he rolled his eyes before giving me a quick kiss. "Seriously though, how are you feeling?" I asked. He shrugged, resting his head on my chest and lacing his fingers through mine. "I don't know. Last night I was just so angry. I was tired of being told what to do, pretending to be happy with all the family stuff. Then I was shocked at how I ended up telling them. I never imagined it like that." "Well," I said, trying to lighten the mood, "you did make it dramatic." He laughed, lifting his head to look at me. "Well, it seemed effective." "You can stay here as long as you want," I said, rolling over slightly. "I'm sure I can keep your mind off things." "Oh yeah?" he asked with a playful grin. Dylan. I know you're awake. Door open when Alec stays over. Alec burst out laughing and I rolled off him. But Mum. No buts. This house stays PG. And breakfast is ready if you want some. I rolled my eyes, got dressed, and went to get Alec ready. We headed to the kitchen, where Sophie ran up to hug him. Hey, he said, smiling as he held her. I didn't know you were staying over, she said. Neither did I, he said, giving Mum a quick glance. You're welcome anytime, she replied, setting out pancakes. We had a quick breakfast before heading back to my room to watch movies with the door open. Around 5, the doorbell rang. Mum went to answer it. Alec, someone's here to see you, she said, opening the door to reveal Karen. Mum? Alec asked, surprised. Hi, honey. Sam said I'd find you here, she said. Hi, Dylan, she added with a smile. Hi. I'll give you 2 a minute, I said, standing up. Alec nodded, bracing himself, and I left to give him space. I'll be in the kitchen, I said, walking away and closing the door behind me. Chapter 41. Alec's POV. I watched Dylan close the door behind him before turning my attention back to my mum. She looked tired, and I felt a pang of guilt for leaving her to deal with Dad last night. I scooted over on Dylan's bed, and she sat down next to me. So, Sam said I'd find you here? I asked, staring at the floor. Well, I thought you'd be here. I called Sam for Dylan's address, she replied. I looked up. You knew I would be here? I kind of put 2 and 2 together. I figured you'd want to see Dylan after last night. So, she knew Dylan was my boyfriend. I guess Luke was right. It was obvious. Alec, she said, taking my hand gently, I want you to know I love you. Nothing will ever change that. And I've noticed how much happier you've been these past few weeks. If Dylan is responsible for that, well, that's all that matters. You mean that? What about Dad? I asked, turning to sit cross-legged on the bed, facing her. You don't need to worry about your father. We're done, especially after last night. He was out of line yelling at you, and he was with that woman he's been seeing behind my back. What? She said, facing me fully. She took both my hands in hers. I walked back in after following you and Luke outside. There they were, standing by the wall. She was trying to comfort him, goodness knows why, so I confronted them. I started going off at your father, and she tells me to calm down. To calm down. Who does she think she is? I couldn't help but laugh a little. Seeing my mum let loose like this was rare and kind of entertaining. Then what happened? I asked eagerly. Well, she said with a smirk, I did what any respectful wife would do. I told her off and stormed out. I laughed harder. She looked at me, confused, and then started laughing too. Go, Mum, I said, giving her a high five. She leaned forward and wrapped me in a hug, and I hugged her back tightly. Despite everything, I've never felt better, she said, gripping my shoulders. Alec, whatever happens, I'm here for you. Don't shut me out or Luke. You can talk to me anytime. I love you. I love you too, I said, hugging her again. A quiet knock interrupted us. Yeah, I asked, and Dylan peeked through the door. Sorry to interrupt, but is there a party going on in here that I wasn't invited to? He teased. My mum laughed and stood, giving Dylan an unexpected hug. So, you're dating my son? She asked seriously. Yeah, Dylan replied, glancing at me. Well, then you better watch him. He's had some interesting exes. Mum. What? You do, especially Savannah. She wasn't very nice. Too much attitude. Dylan laughed and I rolled my eyes. You coming home for dinner? Mum asked as I packed my clothes from last night into a bag. Yeah. School tomorrow, I replied. Okay, I'll meet you in the car. After she left, I closed the door, dropped my bag on the floor, and kissed Dylan. He froze, surprised, and I pulled back before he could respond. Whoa, what was that for? He asked, placing his hands on my shoulders. I don't know, a thank you kiss? You call that a thank you kiss? He teased. That's the best you can do? I smiled, knowing exactly what he was doing. Usually I'd back off from a challenge, but not when it involved Dylan. I guided him back to the bed, sitting him on the edge with his hands still on my shoulders. I leaned closer, brushing my fingers through his hair, and we shared a soft, lingering kiss. It was gentle, affectionate, and filled with the comfort of familiarity. Dylan smiled into it, and I held him close. Suddenly, my mum honked the car horn outside. "Damn it, Karen!" Dylan exclaimed, falling back against the bed as I stood up, laughing. "I'll see you tomorrow?" I asked, picking up my bag. "Yeah," he replied, sitting up and leaning on his elbows. His hair was messy and he bit his lip. He could see I didn't want to leave, and he laughed lightly. "See you tomorrow," he said, tilting his head back and smirking. I shook my head and rolled my eyes before heading out to the car. That boy, he knew exactly what he was doing. Chapter 42. As soon as I walked through the door, Luke was there. He let out a relieved sigh when he saw me and immediately wrapped his arms around me. I was more than happy to hug him back. "You had me worried," he said, releasing me. "Look, language." Mum scolded. "Sorry, Mum," he said sheepishly. We followed her into the kitchen, where she was rummaging through drawers. "What are you looking for?" I asked. I knew we had some," she said, tossing a Chinese takeout menu onto the table. "We're having Chinese." Once the order arrived, Mum suggested we all sit in the living room and eat while watching a movie. It felt nice, normal even, and I think we all needed a bit of that after last night. After the movie finished, I went upstairs, put Dylan's clothes aside, took a quick shower, and got ready for bed. Monday morning was like any other, except that when I got into the car, Sam didn't start driving. He just sat there, staring. "Sam, what are you?" "You told them," he exclaimed. "Well, yeah. Dude, I have never been this happy and shocked in my life." "Okay, but can you keep it down?" I asked. "Sorry," he whispered, holding up his hand for a high five. "Don't leave me hanging." I returned the high five, and we set off. Unsurprisingly, everyone else had similar reactions. Dylan laughed at all the chaos while Cam was not impressed. "Dude, I owe Matt 20 pounds. Cam groaned. "What?" Dylan and I asked simultaneously. "Matt bet me 20 quid that you wouldn't have the courage to tell them, and that they'd find out from someone else," Cam explained. I turned to glare at him. "Come on. So, I didn't think you'd believe me. Now I'm 20 pounds poorer, and my relationship isn't a secret anymore." "True," Dylan said, walking over and taking my hand. We said goodbye to the others and headed to class. By lunch, Cam had cheered up, and it was easy to see why. "Halloween's this weekend." "You know what that means," Sam said as Dylan and I sat at the table. "Party!" Mitch cheered, spinning his chair around. "Yeah, my parents actually gave me permission for this one. Fancy dress, some drinks for those of age. It's going to be a fun night." Sam added. By Friday, Cam could barely contain his excitement. I swear, that boy would have Halloween every day if he could. He even once decorated his room with a "Welcome to Halloween Town" sign and Jack Skellington bed covers. I didn't tell you that. Dylan hadn't told me his costume yet, so I hadn't revealed mine either. I had a feeling his would be amazing, being the creative type, and honestly, mine was pretty basic. Sam asked me to stay over Friday night to help him set up for the party, and I was excited. I hadn't hung out with him much since starting my relationship with Dylan, so this felt like old times. "So," Sam said, flopping onto his bed after school, "we need to set some ground rules." I rolled my eyes and collapsed next to him. "Go ahead." "We're still sharing a bed, so no funny business." "I like you, but not that much," he joked. "Asshole," I muttered, punching him lightly. "That's off limits too," he added, laughing. "Yeah, you've been waiting to start the jokes, huh? The sooner I get it out, the better," he said, smacking me with a pillow. "Just kidding. We're good." We lay there, staring at his ceiling. "So, do you want to talk?" Sam asked seriously. "I don't know if there's much to say," I replied. "Well, how's things with your dad?" "He probably hates me." Ruining the perfect family image at his work dinner didn't help. But Mum says it's over between them. She's handling all the legal stuff and says if he knows what's best, he won't be coming around anytime soon. "And Dylan?" I smiled at the mention of his name. Things are really good. Jamie showing up was a bit of a shock, but we talked it through. Well, your coming out made Kelly and Savannah leave you alone, Sam said, laughing. All hail the gayness. I teased back. We laughed together, and I realized just how much I valued Sam as my best friend. I can't believe I ever thought he would hate me for being with Dylan. Pizza? He asked, getting off the bed. Absolutely, I said, following him downstairs. Chapter 43. Sam went all out with the Halloween decorations as expected. One thing was certain, he knew how to throw a party. We set up fake gravestones in the front garden and lined the driveway with pumpkins. Doorways were draped with ripped cloth that you had to push aside to enter, and every room had pumpkins and spooky statues. Even the food was Halloween-themed, and a big cauldron held some kind of punch that probably didn't taste very good. An hour before the party, we got into our costumes. Sam was the Hulk, basically using green paint, shorts, and muscles to make his presence known, and I went with a classic vampire look. Black jeans, a white shirt with sleeves rolled up, a cape, fake fangs, and a touch of blood around my mouth completed the outfit. Matt and Cam were the first to arrive. Cam went as a zombie, and Matt, with his red hair, chose a devil costume. Dude, the Hulk. Cam said as they entered. Why not? Sam replied. It's Halloween. At least the Hulk is kind of scary. How many girls do you want to bet will come dressed as fairies or rabbits? Cam raised his hands in surrender. Okay, you have a point. By 7 o'clock, more people started arriving, and Sam was right. There were a lot of rabbit and fairy costumes. Dylan, Mitch, and Sally arrived at 7:30, and I couldn't help but laugh. You two coordinated costumes? I asked. Sally's idea, Mitch muttered, glaring at me. Hey, at least we're scary. Sally protested. She was right. Both were wearing doctor-themed outfits. Well, Sally's was more of a nurse and Mitch a surgeon, but they looked convincingly spooky. Dylan, on the other hand, went all out as a ghoul. He'd re-dyed his hair white to the roots and painted his face with pale makeup and dark eye sockets. He looked incredible. You own white trousers? I asked, raising an eyebrow. I do. They really stand out among all my black clothes. He laughed and draped his arm over my shoulder, steering us toward the drinks table. I poured us both a drink and handed one to him. You're the most tanned vampire I've ever seen, I teased. No way was I painting my face white. Sam's used enough face paint for the both of us, Dylan replied, and sure enough, Sam looked like a walking piece of broccoli in green paint. We both took a sip of punch and immediately made faces, coughing and laughing. Seriously, what's in this? Dylan asked, carefully sipping again. Who knows? I watched Sam make it, and I lost count of the ingredients, I admitted. We returned to Mitch and Sally, chatting and dancing as the house filled with more people. Eventually, I decided to step outside for some fresh air. The night was cold, and I sat on the decking steps, cape off, with a little fake blood Sally had added earlier. The patio door slid open, and someone sat next to me. I turned, expecting Dylan, but it was Jamie. What are you doing here? I asked, standing. Jamie placed a hand on my shoulder, stopping me. Alec, wait. I just want to talk. And if I don't want to? He shrugged and lit a cigarette. At least hear me out. He looked the same as that day at school. Dark hair, slight stubble, pale skin. He hadn't bothered with a costume, wearing just a hoodie and jeans. Fine, I'm listening, I said. Jamie nodded. I'm assuming Dylan told you things about me, probably nothing good. I wanted you to know there was a reason I broke up with him. I didn't respond, and he laughed, realizing I wasn't going to comment. Dylan had a lot going on back then. I just couldn't handle it. I regret leaving, but I came back to see how he was, and I can see he's changed a lot. Just say it, I prompted. He's really grown. That's all. He took one last drag of his cigarette and left. I muttered under my breath, watching him walk away. I went back inside, ready to tell Dylan Jamie had been around, but paused when I saw him. Is this a good idea? Asked Mitch. Don't ask me, but it's hilarious. Dylan, are you seriously going to let my girlfriend win? Dylan was playing beer pong with Sally, and she was winning. Mitch, shut up. It's not my fault she's good. Dylan shot back, trying to stay focused. Sally laughed over the music. Lewis, throw the ball. Dylan ended up losing, and I helped him to his feet, draping his arm over my shoulders as we walked over to the wall where Mitch congratulated Sally. Geez, Dylan, you need to practice more, Mitch teased. I can't believe you lost, Dylan said to Sally, leaning on me. Looks can be deceiving, she replied with a grin. Dylan's energy started to fade as the evening went on, so I helped him onto the couch. I then went to find Sam, who was in the kitchen with Matt and Elle. Alec, did Dylan really get beaten at beer pong by Sally? Elle asked, hugging me. Yeah. Sam, come to ask. I've seen the state he's in. Of course he can stay the night, Sam said, laughing. I left the kitchen and returned to Dylan. The party had thinned out, so it was easier to maneuver through the crowd. I helped him upstairs, his arm across my shoulders, slowly guiding him to one of the spare rooms. I can't make it, he complained halfway up the stairs. You can, I reassured him, trying not to laugh at his dramatics. Finally, I helped him onto the bed, turned on the bedside lamp, and closed the door. Are you going to be sick? I asked softly as I smoothed his hair back. No, I'm fine, he mumbled. I pulled the covers back and helped him lie down, taking a moment to watch him settle. His eyes drooped and he yawned. I squeezed his hand. Just sleep. We'll talk in the morning, I whispered, kissing the top of his head. His breathing evened out, and he was asleep almost immediately. Chapter 44. I woke up the next morning to the bed shifting. It was Dylan getting up to rush to the bathroom. Dylan! I called, hopping out of bed and following him. He was hunched over the toilet, groaning. I crouched down beside him and rubbed his back while blinking away sleep. You okay? I asked softly. I hate Sally, he groaned, sitting back and wiping his face. I stood up and rummaged through the bathroom cabinet, finding a spare toothbrush. Here, I said, handing it to him. He brushed his teeth while I grabbed one for myself. I gave him a reassuring pat on the back before heading back to the bed. I checked my phone, 7:30. Another groan escaped me. What? Dylan mumbled, collapsing back onto the bed. It's only 7:30, I muttered. Oops. My bad. Don't worry about it, I said, getting comfortable. The room was still dim, and no one else would be up for hours. I might be able to squeeze in a bit more sleep. Shit. Jamie. I rolled over to face Dylan, who was now looking at me, his eyebrows raised and a sleepy yawn escaping. What is it, Alec? There was no perfect time to mention that I'd spoken to his ex, but better now than later. Last night when I went outside, Jamie was there. Dylan's face stayed calm, composed. About time he tried to stir trouble again. What did he say? Well, he just wanted me to hear him out. He said he could see you've changed but wanted to explain why he broke up with you. Then he went vague, saying things like he shouldn't have left you in the state you were in, and that he didn't think someone could change as much as you have. Dylan wiped his face, tugged at his hair, and turned to lie on his side facing me. I know you want to understand what he meant, he said softly. I want to tell you I just never found the right time, he continued, eyebrows furrowed and lips pressed together. I reached out, took his hand, and traced gentle circles on the back of it with my thumb. When I started getting to know Jamie, I was pretty messed up, mostly because of my dad. I was angry when he left. Mum was busy at work, so I spent a lot of time babysitting Sophie or staying at my grand's. I missed him. I was angry and hurt at the same time. So, I went off the rails a bit, smoking, drinking, getting into fights, before Jamie came along. Then, seeing him made things better, but also worse. I had someone to rely on, which is probably why I fell for him too quickly. But it also made me confused and frustrated. I had enough problems already, and figuring out my feelings didn't make it easier. He squeezed my hand and looked down, lost in his memories. After a moment, he focused back on me, smiling. When Jamie left, things got really bad. I didn't care about anything, but Mitch stuck by me. And when he and Sally got together, it gave me a distraction. You know Sally, you can't not like her. I laughed. Dylan's expression softened. I'll never forget what she said to me one day. She just turned around, slapped me on the shoulder and said, "You better get it together, Dylan Lewis. I love you, Mitch loves you, and we're going to the carnival. You can't be sad at a carnival." I chuckled. That sounded exactly like Sally. That was right before Sophie's 6th birthday. I'd been shutting everyone out, including Mum and Sophie. But when I saw her at the party, she gave me a hug. I realized she was right. I'd been missing out on life. So, I pulled myself together, spent more time with my family, and by the time school started again, I'd met you a few weeks later. Dylan looked at our hands, still entwined, and gently lifted mine to cup his face. "Thank you," I whispered. "For what?" "For trusting me enough to tell me all that." And then, the most laid-back person I knew blushed. I smiled, holding the back of his neck and leaning closer. I kissed him softly, pressing my forehead to his. Dylan smiled, wrapping his arms around me, and rested his head against mine. His eyes sparkled and he laughed softly. "I like your hair," I said. "Give it 2 weeks and the roots will be back," he replied. "I like the roots too," I teased, pressing a kiss to his nose, then chin, then cheek. "Alec," he murmured, a warning in his tone. I caught it and decided to switch tactics, tickling him lightly. "Oh my gosh. Alec, stop," he laughed. "Make me," I joked, and he rolled over, still laughing, and pressed his forehead to mine. "So, are we watching fireworks on Thursday?" he asked, finally serious. "Yeah. Are Sally and Mitch coming too?" "Of course." Dylan hovered above me, resting on his elbows, frowning for a moment. "We don't have a change of clothes," he admitted. "Oh, looks like a walk of shame in our Halloween costumes," I teased. Dylan laughed. "With you, Alec, it would never be a walk of shame." Chapter 45. That week at school, leading up to Guy Fawkes Night on the 5th of November, I could tell Dylan was more at ease. He seemed calmer, more confident in our relationship. I hadn't realized just how tense and anxious he had been before, but compared to now, it was clear how much Jamie had affected him. I liked knowing he trusted me. Talking about his past and about Jamie wasn't easy for him, which made it mean even more that he opened up. It had brought us closer. Not only did I trust him, but I knew he trusted me, and that felt both intense and deeply personal. At school, our relationship felt private and comfortable. There was no anxiety, no self-consciousness. We had found a balance that worked for both of us. I'd never been a fan of public displays of affection, and despite Dylan's teasing and joking, there were no more exaggerated gestures in the hallways. As expected, Thursday was freezing. It always was on Guy Fawkes Night. I never really understood why people stood in the cold around a bonfire, watching fireworks that commemorated a man who had tried and failed to blow up Parliament. Dylan was picking me up at 8. I wrapped up warm, scarf, gloves, parka, and boots, and made my way to meet him when I heard the car pull up. He was getting out as I approached. "In a hurry?" he asked. "Mum's home. If you go inside, we'll be there for a while," I replied, climbing into the passenger seat. "She does like spending time with me," he said with a grin, sliding in beside me. "Well, she'll have to wait," I teased, leaning in to kiss him. Dylan smiled, holding the kiss for a few more seconds before starting the car. Kissing Dylan had become instinctual. No thinking, just acting. It was one of the few moments I allowed to be impulsive, and Dylan was the same. He no longer worried about being too affectionate. We moved in sync, our understanding unspoken and effortless. Dylan found a parking spot in a nearby field. We got out, and he pulled a hat over his head, taking my hand as we walked toward the bonfire. "I didn't take you for a hat guy," I said. "Why is that?" I gestured vaguely at his hair. "All that hair." Dylan laughed. "You have a point. But I'll sacrifice the scruff for a warm head any day. And honestly, I think I rock the hat." "That you do," I agreed as we reached our friends. Sam and the others had gathered blankets, deck chairs, and a picnic setup. We said hi and sat on a blanket next to Cam and Matt, who were playing cards. "You'd think Matt was Cam's boyfriend instead of me," Elle said, laughing as she wrapped herself in a blanket. "Babe, I'm just proving I'm better at cards than him," Matt replied with a grin. "Are you guys really playing Snap?" I asked. "Yes, so." Cam didn't look up. Even my little sister can play Snap, Dylan quipped, earning a look from Cam. She's 6, Dylan added cautiously. Well, that got awkward, muttered Cam, returning to his game. Everyone cheered when the bonfire was lit. The warmth allowed me to take off my gloves, and we watched the fireworks together. While I thought they were a short-lived spectacle, the crowd loved them. We chatted, enjoying the night as the bonfire blazed and people slowly began to leave. I was talking to Dylan about one of his art projects when Mitch suddenly hissed. "What is he doing here?" Following his gaze, I saw Jamie standing across the bonfire. He wasn't looking at us, just watching the flames. Dylan tensed, and I quickly took his hand. "If you want to talk to him, I don't mind," I said softly. Dylan looked at me, unsure, then nodded. "You're probably right," he said, giving me a quick kiss before walking toward Jamie. Mitch warned him, but Dylan ignored it. I tried not to watch too closely, but I couldn't help glancing at them. He didn't hate Jamie. I could tell by the way he listened, the way he stood close. He wasn't repulsed or uncomfortable. He hated what Jamie had done to him, not Jamie himself. But what if he still had feelings for him? I shook the thought from my mind. Dylan had said he'd moved on, but what if he was lying to himself? I looked up just in time to see Jamie lean forward and kiss Dylan. Dylan didn't push him away, didn't react outwardly. When Jamie stepped back and walked off, Dylan remained standing, lost in thought. After what felt like hours, Dylan finally turned toward me. His expression shifted from confusion to horror. Slowly, he made his way over, and I stood up. I caught Mitch's eye. He had seen what happened too. "Alec just... I'm not feeling well all of a sudden. I'll see you guys tomorrow," I said, walking in the opposite direction. Dylan caught up, breathless. "Alec, I'm sorry, will you just wait?" "I don't want to talk right now," I replied, my voice steady. We walked in silence to the car park, Dylan beside me. I didn't feel anything, anger, sadness, confusion, nothing. I couldn't face the conversation with him yet. Finally, I stopped and looked at him. "Will you please just take me home?" "Sure," Dylan said softly. We got in the car quietly. Pulling up outside my house, Dylan started to speak, but I cut him off. "Do you still love him?" I asked, emotionless, staring out the windshield. "What?" he asked, confused. "Do you still love him?" I repeated, looking him straight in the eyes. He tried to take my hand, but I pulled away. "Alec, can we just?" I didn't wait for him. I opened the door and went inside, locking it behind me. I needed space. I needed to process this, and for now, I needed to be alone. Chapter 46. Dylan's POV. "If you want to go talk to him, I don't mind." I turned toward Alec, surprised. I hadn't expected him to say that. I opened my mouth but didn't know how to reply. "I know you might not like him, but maybe if you speak to him, he might leave? Or better yet, he might tell you why he's actually here." I glanced at Jamie and slowly nodded. Alec was right. If Jamie wasn't going to leave, I might as well face him. "You're probably right," I said, standing quickly. I leaned down and gave Alec a quick kiss. "I won't be long." "Dylan," Mitch started, but I ignored him and walked toward Jamie. I would deal with Mitch later. Jamie didn't turn as I approached, so I stood next to him, watching the flames. I said nothing. I had nothing to say. If he wanted to talk, this was his chance. "You look good," Jamie said, his gaze still on the fire. His voice caught me off guard. "So do you," I mumbled. His lips curved into a small smile. He did look good, clean-shaven, shorter hair, alert eyes. The familiar smell of cigarettes lingered, though some things never change. He finally looked up at me. Seeing him again, the anger I had felt softened, replaced by a strange nostalgia. In a way, I had lied to Alec. Jamie wasn't the villain I had made him out to be. Yes, he hurt me, but I had played a part in that too. "How are you?" he asked, cautiously testing the waters. He wasn't used to the Dylan Alec knew. He remembered the boy I had been when we dated. "I'm good," I replied vaguely. Jamie always seemed more reserved. I tended to be honest to the point of being blunt. He gave me a knowing look. "How are you really?" "I'm better." He nodded and turned back toward the fire. "Why are you here?" I asked, still watching him. He avoided my eyes. After the accident, I guess it gave me perspective. Waking up and seeing Callie upset made me realize how much I had taken for granted, he said quietly. He smiled faintly. I just wanted to shut out everything else at the time. I shouldn't have left you. I used Callie as an excuse because I felt I couldn't help you. I introduced you to things you didn't need, and I couldn't pull you away. That was my fault. Jamie had shown me the world of cigarettes, drinking, and reckless nights, edges of a life I didn't belong to. I had gotten caught in the middle and couldn't escape. I'm sorry, I said. My apology made him look up in surprise. I got frustrated when you didn't follow me into that life. It wasn't your fault. You don't need to apologize, he said softly. I could see how much you trusted me and I misused that trust. I was selfish back then. I never should have left the way I did. How did you get through it? Mitch, I said, and Jamie laughed. I knew that guy was a force to be reckoned with. He probably hated me. He still does, I chuckled. Sally, Mitch, and Sophie, they all helped me realize what an idiot I was. And Alec? Jamie asked, glancing at the bonfire. I caught Alec quickly looking away and smiled. He helped. He showed me it was worth it. Jamie nodded, pulling out a cigarette, but thoughtfully put it away without lighting it. I came back to see how you were, he said softly. I realized we were standing closer than I expected, but I didn't step back. I also wanted to apologize. If I could go back, I wouldn't leave. But if I hadn't, you might not be as happy as you are now. I just wish I hadn't hurt you the way I did. I believed him. I realized my anger had been a shield for the hurt he caused, not a reflection of my feelings. I can see you're happy. I just wished I could have been the one to make you happy, he added. Then he leaned in and kissed me. Gentle, familiar, like a memory. It was over quickly and he stepped back, looking a little sheepish. Sorry. I'll leave you alone now, he said, walking off. I didn't watch him leave. I stood there, confused. The kiss stirred old feelings, but it wasn't the same as what I felt with Alec. Alec. I turned to see him watching me, his expression enough to snap me out of my daze. I started walking toward him. Mitch tried to intervene, but Alec didn't wait. He moved toward the car park. I jogged after him. Alec, I'm sorry, please just wait. I don't want to talk right now. He walked steadily and I followed. I needed him to listen. I needed to explain, to tell him what I knew. We reached the car park and Alec stopped, frustrated. He remembered I had driven him. Will you please just take me home? He asked softly. Of course, I said quietly. We walked side by side to the car. Talking now wasn't going to help. I had to wait until Alec was ready. We got into the car. The ride was quiet. Outside his house, I tried once more to reach him. He didn't let me speak. Do you love him? Alec asked, voice flat, staring out the windshield. What? Peston. The calmness on his face, always so expressive, was now gone. Do you still love him? He wouldn't move until I answered seriously. I frowned, reaching for his hand, but he pulled away. Alec, can we? I should have said no. Why didn't I? His face changed and I knew I might have just lost him. He opened the car door and walked inside, shutting me out. I rested my forehead against the door, blinking back tears. I walked back to the car, sitting behind the wheel. Halfway home, the tears came in waves. I pulled over, resting my head on the steering wheel. I was such an idiot. I had let him slip away. My phone rang. It was Mitch. I took a deep breath before answering. I messed up, I said, my voice breaking. Where are you? He asked calmly. I told him and he said, I'm coming. Please don't do anything rash. I rummaged through the glove compartment, trying to steady myself. The tears wouldn't stop. I found a lighter and lit one cigarette I had stashed away, my first in over 5 months. I took a slow breath, letting the smoke help me focus. Mitch would be here soon. Chapter 47. Alec's POV. It took every ounce of willpower not to open the door. I wanted to, but I needed to keep it closed. A small part of me knew Dylan would have a reasonable explanation for what happened, but right now, I was hurt. The fact that it hurts so much just proved how strong my feelings were for Dylan. When I had dated Savannah, I could have counted the times she kissed other guys, but even then, it didn't matter that much. I was more irritated than upset. With Dylan it was different. We hadn't broken up, but it felt like we had. I'd never been jealous before, but now I was. I was jealous that Jamie had been with Dylan before me, and that some part of him still lingered there. I knew Dylan still had feelings for Jamie, I just wished his feelings for me were stronger. I walked to the kitchen and grabbed a bottle of water from the fridge. I was so lost in my emotions that I didn't notice my mum sitting at the table, with Dad beside her. I froze mid-step, staring at them. They had stopped talking and looked at me, clearly surprised I hadn't noticed them. I refused to look at my dad and screwed the lid back on the bottle before turning to my mum. "What's he doing here?" I asked, my voice tired, flat. Right now, I really didn't care. "Alec, your father and I were discussing the divorce," she said calmly, though she looked tense. I didn't blame her after the last time I saw Dad. "Alec," Dad said in a sort of greeting. I glanced at him briefly, then looked back at Mum. "Okay, whatever. I'm going to bed." "Alec," she said, standing. "Are you okay?" "Yeah, just fine," I muttered and headed toward the stairs. "Alec. Alec, your mother is speaking to you," Dad said, standing up. "Oh, so now you want to play the parent?" "Goodbye, Dad, have a nice life," I said, climbing the stairs. Halfway up, he called my name again. He was standing at the bottom. "Alec, show some respect when talking to us both. Why do you even care? You never cared when you were with someone else." "Alec Brooke, don't you?" "I'm not in the mood to argue. I don't care what you think." I continued up to my room. Luke opened his door as I passed. "Okay?" he asked. "I'll be fine," I said, closing my bedroom door behind me. I stripped down to my boxers and climbed into bed. The muffled sound of my parents arguing carried up from downstairs. "He's a disgrace to this family." "Jack, that's your son." "That boy is not my son." "Jack, how dare you?" "Oh, come on, Karen. Are you really saying it's okay with him dating a guy? He can do what he likes. I'll love him either way. He's my son. He's torn this family apart." "Wait. You have." The door slammed, and I heard Dad's car pull out of the driveway. I hadn't even noticed it was there. My phone began to ring. It was Dylan. I let it ring. Fin. I ignored it. Then a text notification appeared. I didn't read it at first, just stared at the screen. Another message came through. This time I picked it up and read it. "Alec, please pick up the phone." "I'm sorry." I turned the phone to silent and pulled the covers over my head. Eventually, the tears I had been holding back began to fall. I let them, hoping that releasing them would ease the pain, but it didn't. The pain was still there, stubborn and unrelenting. Chapter 48. Alec's Day. I didn't want to go to school. It was raining, my eyes hurt, and my bed was way too comfortable. But Alec Brooke, don't let a bad mood get in the way of my education. Thoughts like that just made me want to crawl back under the covers. My own cringy inner monologue was embarrassing me. Eventually, I forced myself out of bed, got dressed, and managed a quick breakfast. By 8:40, Luke and I were dashing out to Sam's car. Sam drove quietly, tapping his fingers on the steering wheel at a red light. "You want to say something?" I asked, leaning my head against the window as rain streamed down the glass. "No, I don't," Sam said, in the most unconvincing way possible. "Yes, you do. Spit it out." "I don't want to intrude." I laughed bitterly. "You always want to intrude." "Yeah, true. But this time..." "Sam, I'll beat it out of you." "Well, okay. Anywho." "Sam." "Oh, look. Green light." He hit the accelerator a little too hard, and my head jolted against the window. I sat up, glaring at him. "Just ask," I said. He sighed and glanced at me. "Is everything okay with you and Dylan? Mitch and Sally had to leave last night after you guys because Dylan got a call." "I don't want to talk about it," I muttered, turning away. "See, that's why I didn't ask." "I have no idea what's going on," Luke added from the back seat. By the time we arrived at school, the rain had soaked my hair through. I had double PE and Mr. Connor, Deciding half the class was hungover made us do cross-country in the pouring rain. Maths and English dragged on with wet hair and socks, and by lunch I was starving. I grabbed my lunch and joined my friends at the table, sneaking glances around for Dylan. "Where's Dylan?" I asked casually. My effort was wasted. The table went silent. "He didn't want to come in today," Mitch said. "Okay," I replied, picking at my food. Before lunch ended, Sally grabbed my arm and steered me out of the hall. "Right, tell me what's going on," she asked. "Maybe it's none of your business?" She lightly tapped me on the back of the head. "Oh, what was that for?" "Don't get moody with me, Alec Brooke, or I'll get you back," she teased. "Geez, okay. Sorry," I said, hands raised in surrender. "So, what's going on with you two?" "Nothing," I said. "Don't lie. Mitch dropped me off last night and said Dylan was in a bad state. He even mentioned Dylan was smoking." I tried to act indifferent. "So, Alec, go talk to him." "Why?" "You know why. Mitch said you saw him with Jamie, or Jamie with him. Anyway, you should hear him out." I sighed. Sally's sympathy softened me, and she took my hands. I hated to admit it, but she was right. "Alec," she said softly, hugging me, "you're the best thing that's ever happened to him. He loves you, I can see it. And I know you love him, you're just too scared to admit it." "Sally, I don't know what to do," I whispered. "Then listen to me," she said, wiping away her own tears. "Go talk to him tomorrow when your head's clear. Hear him out." I hugged her back as the end of lunch bell rang. "Thank you," I said. "That's what I'm here for." That night, my mum knocked on my door. I'd already told her I was fine, avoiding any mention of Dad's harsh words earlier. "Alec," she said softly, peeking in. I took out my headphones as she stepped in. She handed me the phone. "It's for you." I took it and sat on the edge of my bed as she quietly closed the door. "Hello. Alec?" "Hi, it's Jane." "Oh, hi. How are you?" "I'm good. I wanted to ask you a favor." "Sure, what is it?" "Sophie and I are staying at my mum's this weekend. Dylan was supposed to come, but he says he's not in the mood. Could you check up on him?" He won't leave his room or say what's wrong. Do you know?" "Well, we kind of had a fight and—" "Oh, Alec. Sorry. I'll ask Mitch instead." "No, it's fine. I don't mind. I need to sort things out anyway." "Thank you so much. I just worry he'll go back to the way he was, but never mind. I'm sure he's fine." "Don't worry, Jane. We'll make sure he's okay." "Thanks. Sophie's got my phone now. Bye." "Bye," I said, laughing lightly. My smile faded as I remembered her words. Was Dylan really that upset? I went downstairs, said goodnight to Mum, and headed for a shower to clear my head. I knew worrying wouldn't help. With music in my ears, I hoped sleep would finally come despite the knot of anxiety in my chest. Chapter 49. I took my time getting up on Saturday morning, making sure Jane and Sophie would already be gone before I arrived at Dylan's place. I showered again, brushed my teeth, and put on gray sweats, a white t-shirt, and a black zip-up hoodie. Mum told me that Jane had called to say they'd left, and that the back door would be open since she doubted Dylan would answer the door for anyone. I said goodbye, letting her know I wasn't sure how long I'd be gone but would message her if I went anywhere else. The weather was dry but chilly, so I decided to walk. The walk helped clear my head, and by the time I reached Dylan's house, I wasn't as nervous as I'd felt that morning. I went around to the back door, stepped inside quietly, and headed down the hall. I knocked lightly on Dylan's bedroom door before pushing it open. He was lying face down across the bed, one leg dangling off the side. His blankets were on the floor, and he wore a loose black t-shirt and dark shorts. The room smelled faintly of cigarettes and alcohol, but the bigger problem was the mess. Empty beer bottles, clothes scattered everywhere, crumpled papers, and sketchbooks lay all over the floor. Sally once mentioned that Dylan only leaned into art when he was upset or overwhelmed. Seeing the state of his room made me understand why Jane had been worried. I closed the door and stepped carefully toward the bed, crouching down so I was level with his face. "Dylan? Dylan?" I said gently. He groaned, squinting as he looked up at me. Alec. Hey. It's me. His eyes widened in shock. Alec. Are you okay? I asked, standing. He sat up slowly and rubbed his face with both hands. His hair was a mess and his eyes were red. What are you doing here? He asked softly. I came to talk. Or, to hear what you wanted to say the other night, I said, glancing around the room. My mum called you, he said, less a question than a statement. Yeah. She's worried, Dylan. Mitch said you'd been smoking and drinking and… Dylan, why? He looked down at his hands, biting his lip. I wanted to hug him and tell him everything would be all right, but things weren't simple. Not yet. Because I messed up, he whispered. I sat on the opposite side of the bed, giving us both some space. I'm really sorry, Alec, he continued, still staring at his hands. Jamie came by. He apologized for leaving me in the state I was in and said he wanted me to be happy. I honestly thought he'd come back just to make things worse, which he kind of did. But when he kissed me, I realized my feelings hadn't changed. My chest tightened. He lifted his head, eyes vulnerable. Alec, I still felt the same way about Jamie that I did before, but that's only because I hid how hurt I was. I wasn't angry at him, I was angry at myself. My heart sank. I shouldn't have come. Dylan still loved Jamie. He must have noticed the panic on my face, because he immediately leaned forward and took my hands. This time, I didn't pull away. Hey, he said softly. Listen. That night, I realized something important. Yes, I still cared about Jamie, but I was never in love with him. I admired him. I depended on him. He made me feel safe when I didn't know who I was. But I never loved him. What makes you say that? I asked as tears began to escape down my cheeks. He gently cupped my face and wiped my tears with his thumbs. Because I love you, Alec Brooke, he said, and what I felt for him doesn't even come close to what I feel for you. I closed my eyes, breathing out in relief. He loved me. I love you, I whispered back, opening my eyes. His whole face lit up. Really? I laughed. Really? Say it again. I love you, Dylan Lewis. He leaned forward and hugged me so tightly that I almost fell onto the bed. Say it again. I love you. I love you. I love you. He cut me off with a gentle kiss. It was soft and warm, and I relaxed into him, my hands resting at his sides. I love you too, he murmured, resting his forehead against mine. I ran my fingers through his hair and frowned. Dude, you seriously need a shower. He grinned. Doesn't matter. You love me. I never have to shower again. Yes, you do. Nope. Love is unconditional. With the exception of hygiene. He laughed and kissed me again before I nudged him away. Seriously. Go shower. Yes, Mum, he teased, getting up. That's just wrong. Whatever you say, darling, he replied, skipping down the hall. Don't call me darling. Okay, honey bee. I sighed. So this was love, huh? While he showered, I tidied up his room, picking up the papers, gathering his clothes, and clearing away the bottles. This part of him scared me, but it also made me understand him better. I didn't plan to let him go back to this version of himself ever again. I wasn't going anywhere. When I finished, I lay down on his bed and waited. A few minutes later, he stepped into the room with a towel wrapped around his waist. I could get used to this, he said, glancing at the tidy room and then at me. So could I joked, nodding at him still wrapped in a towel. He laughed and grabbed fresh clothes. With his back turned, he changed quickly. Quit staring at me, he called over his shoulder. Quit standing in the middle of the room, I replied. He rolled his eyes, but he was smiling. When he walked toward me, I sat at the edge of the bed and he stood between my knees. He ran a hand through my hair and lifted my chin so he could kiss me. This one was sweet and slow, warm with emotion. You keep making faces like that, and I won't want to stop, he whispered. I smiled. Maybe that's okay. He paused, searching my face. Alec, are you saying? I nodded. Yeah. But I mean taking things slowly. I'm not in a rush. His shoulders relaxed in relief, and he smiled, a real, soft smile. Slow is good. He kissed my forehead and rested his head against mine. "I love you," he breathed. "I love you too," I replied, holding his face with both hands. "And I trust you." He gave me one last gentle kiss before sitting beside me. "Then we'll take everything at our own pace," he said. "No pressure. Just us." And for the first time in a long while, everything felt right. Chapter 50. I lay awake with Dylan sleeping beside me. The night had been emotional and overwhelming in the best way, and all I felt in that moment was a quiet mix of happiness, comfort, and love as I looked at his face. At some point I drifted off, and when I woke again, it was already 6:30 in the evening. Dylan was pulling on a pair of shorts and drying his hair with a towel. "Did you already have a shower?" I asked, rubbing my eyes and sitting up. "Yeah. Want one?" I nodded and moved toward the edge of the bed, slipping on my boxers. Dylan watched me with a playful grin he was clearly trying to hide. "What?" I asked, narrowing my eyes at him. He shook his head and sat on his desk chair, straddling it backwards. "Nothing. Just checking if you're okay." "I'm fine." "Why?" "No reason." I shot him a confused look and walked toward the door, only to wince after a few steps. I turned and glared at him. He laughed, stood, and walked over. He loosely wrapped his arms around my neck and kissed my nose, still grinning like an idiot. I kept glaring. "Hey," I muttered, "that was not funny." He smirked. "I'm perfectly fine, actually." I shoved him lightly and continued toward the hallway, doing my best not to limp. "There goes my little ducky," Dylan called out. "Don't call me ducky." "But you're kind of walk." I slammed the bathroom door in his face before he could finish. I heard his chuckle through the wood. "Alec," he called. "I love you." I took a few deep breaths before opening the door. He stood there with both arms braced against the frame, eyebrows raised like he knew exactly what he was doing. I leaned forward and kissed him, then pulled back before he could move his arms. "I know," I said softly with a smile, then closed the door again. His laugh echoed down the hall as I finally turned on the shower. Later, we sat on the couch with the pizza we'd ordered. I knew Dylan was going to bring it up eventually. "How are things with your family?" he asked. I shrugged, took a bite of pizza, and swallowed before answering. "Okay, I guess. My dad stopped by last night. He was there when I got home." Dylan froze, slowly lowering his slice back into the box. "What happened?" I yelled. He yelled. Then he argued with Mum afterward and he said some things I wish I hadn't heard. I looked down at my hands, wiping them clean with a napkin. "What did he say?" "Oh, just," I swallowed hard, "that he didn't consider me his son anymore. And he called me a slur." Dylan didn't speak right away. He simply reached forward and wiped a tear from my cheek, one I didn't even realize had fallen. "Alec, I'm really sorry," he said gently. "I'd tell you to ignore it, but I know it isn't that simple." "I knew he wouldn't be happy about all of this," I said quietly, "but I didn't expect him to actually push me away like that." Dylan reached out and took both my hands in his. "Alec Brooke, listen to me. Your dad may not understand right now, but that doesn't define your worth." He squeezed my hands firmly. "Focus on the people who love you, because there are a lot of them." He continued, voice soft but steady. "I love you. Your mum loves you. Luke loves you. My mum and Sophie love you. Simba and Nakem, they're all here for you. Even Sally and Mitch. You have so many people in your life who care. Please don't spend your energy on the one person refusing to see you clearly." My eyes filled again, but this time with something lighter, relief. "I'm here," Dylan added. "And so are they. As long as you're happy, that's what matters." A smile broke through my tears. I leaned forward and wrapped my arms around him tightly, holding on like he was the only solid thing in the world. "I love you," I whispered into his ear. "I love you," he whispered back. "I'm here. We'll get through this together." "I know," I said, finally believing it. Thanks for listening to today's BL story. If it made your heart skip a beat, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Only here on BL Stories, where love knows no limits.